Have you ever wondered why climbing stairs becomes more difficult each year? Why getting up from a chair requires more effort? Why carrying groceries feels like an endurance test? It's not just age. Something silent is happening in your body right now. Look at your arms, your legs. What do you see? Does the same firmness of your 40s persist? Or do you notice that something is disappearing? The truth is alarming. From the age of 50, the body begins to lose approximately 1% of its muscle mass annually. By 70, the loss ranges between 20 and 40% of strength. And the worst part? Most elderly people don't even realize it until it's too late. But there's a secret that nobody tells you. A specific nutrient may be missing. A nutrient so effective that its absence accelerates muscle loss, while its adequate presence can interrupt and even reverse some of the damage. Doctors don't mention it. Nutritionists rarely cite it. The food industry, they prefer you to keep consuming products that literally steal this nutrient. Today, I will reveal the secret that can save your muscles. I will explain how this vital nutrient works, its importance for those over 60, and why many elderly people suffer from its deficiency without knowing it. This is not just another video about health. It's a warning, a revelation that can change how you age, move, and even how long you will live with independence and quality of life. In a few minutes, you will discover the specific nutrient to maintain strong and healthy muscles after 60. The signs that your body is suffering from its lack, the dietary traps that harm your muscle health, and most importantly, what to do from today to rebuild what has been lost. By the end, you will have the tools to protect your muscles, regain your strength, and ensure independence, activity, and health in the coming years. Because regardless of age, it's never too late to reverse this silent process of deterioration. Before revealing this vital nutrient, do something important. If you are concerned about your health or the health of a loved one, click the subscribe button and activate notifications. Because we share information weekly that transforms the quality of life in old age. And more. While we watch, tell me if the content makes sense. If you have noticed any of the mentioned symptoms or know someone with muscle loss difficulties, type 1 in the comments, otherwise type 0. Your participation is crucial to knowing that I am helping the right people. Now to the essentials, understanding what happens to your muscles and how to protect them. The medical term may be new, but its effects are not. Sarcopenia, from the Greek sarkon, flesh, and penia, loss, is the progressive and generalized loss of muscle mass and strength with age. This is not just an aesthetic inconvenience. It is a serious medical condition that affects more than 50% of people over 80, but it starts earlier, usually after 50, when the body begins a slow and silent deterioration. Sarcopenia doesn't come alone. It's like a thief who paves the way for other invaders. When muscles begin to disappear, metabolism slows down, making weight gain easier. Balance is compromised, increasing the risk of falls by up to 300%. Joints lose protection, accelerating problems like arthritis. The ability to recover after illnesses or surgeries decreases significantly. Independence is lost, making you dependent for simple tasks. Think of your body as a building. Muscles are the supporting structures. When they weaken, the entire building is compromised. That's what happens when sarcopenia advances. Recent studies from the University of São Paulo have shown that elderly people with advanced sarcopenia have a 2.3 times greater risk of premature death, regardless of other health conditions. This makes muscle loss not only a mobility problem, but a matter of survival. The most frightening thing? Most people don't even notice until the signs are too serious to ignore. How to know if your muscles are silently disappearing? There are subtle signs that many mistake for normal aging, but are in fact warnings. Unexplained fatigue. If simple activities, like climbing stairs or carrying groceries, leave you exhausted, your muscles may be losing strength. Difficulty getting up. Observe the effort to get up from a chair without arm support. If this is becoming more difficult, your muscles may be weakening. Decrease in arm and leg size. Compare photos from 5 years ago. Do you notice any difference in the volume of your limbs? Sarcopenia often begins in the extremities. More frequent falls. Tripping over small obstacles or feeling unsteady when walking are signs that your stabilizer muscles are losing strength. Loss of hand strength. Do you have difficulty opening jars or bottles that you used to open easily? Grip strength is an indicator of overall muscle health. Slower recovery. If small efforts require days to recover, your muscles may be losing their regenerative capacity. Change in posture. An arching of the back or slumped shoulders may indicate that the muscles supporting your spine are weakening. Maria, a 72-year-old retired teacher, ignored these signs, thinking they were normal for her age. Only when she fell in the kitchen and couldn't get up on her own, needing to wait hours for her daughter, did she realize something was wrong. The diagnosis? Advanced sarcopenia. But there is good news. Unlike many age-related conditions, sarcopenia can be reversed or significantly slowed down. It all starts with a specific nutrient that most elderly people don't consume in the right amount. The time has come to reveal the crucial nutrient missing from the diet of most elderly people: protein. But it's not just any protein. We're talking specifically about complete proteins rich in essential amino acids, particularly leucine. Why is protein so important after 60? Because it's the building material of your muscles. Without enough protein, your body not only stops building new muscle tissue, it starts consuming existing muscles to obtain the amino acids needed for other vital functions. Think of your muscles as a house under constant renovation. Daily, parts are disassembled and rebuilt. This process is called protein turnover. In a young adult, the balance is perfect. But after 60, something dramatic happens. Your body's ability to synthesize proteins decreases by up to 30%. Your body needs 40% more protein than before to activate the same muscle-building mechanisms. Intestinal absorption of proteins becomes less efficient. Your sensitivity to leucine, the amino acid that turns on protein synthesis, decreases drastically. A revolutionary study published in the Journal of Gerontology revealed that elderly people who consumed higher levels of protein, 1.2 g per kilogram of body weight, had 40% less muscle loss over 3 years compared to those who followed only the minimum recommendation of 0.8 g/kg. Even more impressive was the discovery that those who combined higher protein intake with regular physical activity were able to not only maintain, but increase their muscle mass, even at 80 years of age. Dr. Carlos Silva, a renowned geriatrician and researcher at UNIFESP, explains, protein deficiency in old age is a silent epidemic. We are seeing elderly people with protein levels so low that their bodies simply cannot maintain muscle integrity, leading to a vicious cycle of weakness, inactivity, and more muscle loss. And here's the crucial point. While young adults need approximately 0.8 g of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, recent research suggests that elderly people need 1.2 g to 1.6 g to effectively combat sarcopenia. This means that a 70 kilos person would need to consume between 84 g and 100 micrograms of protein per day, much more than most elderly people currently consume. But it's not just the amount of protein that matters. The type and timing of consumption are equally crucial, as we will see below. Here's something that few doctors explain to their elderly patients. Your body no longer processes protein in the same way it did when you were younger. This is a fundamental change that occurs and explains why many elderly people continue to lose muscle even when they think they are eating well. This condition has a scientific name: anabolic resistance. Simply put, it means that your body becomes less sensitive to the signals that would normally activate muscle growth after protein consumption. Let's understand what happens in detail. Lower postprandial protein synthesis. After eating protein, your young body immediately started building muscle. Now, this response is up to 30% lower, even with the same amount of protein. Reduced sensitivity to leucine. Leucine is the amino acid that acts as a key that turns on the muscle-building mechanism. In old age, the lock rusts, and you need a bigger key, more leucine, to turn it. Compromised intestinal absorption. With aging, your ability to extract protein from food decreases. What was previously absorbed efficiently now passes through the digestive system without being completely utilized. Low-grade chronic inflammation. The natural inflammatory state of aging directly interferes with protein synthesis mechanisms, blocking muscle building. Reduced hormone levels. Anabolic hormones such as testosterone, estrogen, and IGF-1 decrease with age, reducing muscle-building capacity even when protein is available. Dona Aparecida, a 78-year-old patient, told me that she always drank a glass of milk before bed, believing she was providing protein to her body. What she didn't know is that this method, which worked well when she was younger, was now almost useless. The amount of protein was insufficient to overcome her anabolic resistance, and the timing was not ideal. To illustrate better, imagine that your muscle is like a plantation. When you were young, a light rain, little protein, was enough to make the plants grow. Now you need a strong and constant rain, more protein distributed throughout the day to get the same result. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that elderly people need to consume approximately 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein in a single meal to overcome this anabolic resistance and effectively activate muscle protein synthesis. This is significantly more than the 15-20 green needed for young adults. Understanding these changes is fundamental, as it means that it is not enough to simply eat more protein. You need to consume it in the right way, in the right amount, and at the ideal times to overcome the barriers that your body now imposes. And as if this change in how your body processes proteins wasn't enough, there are still traps in your daily diet that may be blocking the absorption of this vital nutrient, even when you think you're doing everything right. You may be thinking, but I eat meat, eggs, milk. How can I be deficient in protein? The answer lies in the dietary traps that many elderly people fall into without realizing, habits that literally steal protein from your body or prevent its proper absorption. Let's expose these traps one by one. 1. Excessive consumption of sugar and refined carbohydrates. When you consume foods rich in sugar or white flour, your pancreas releases large amounts of insulin. In excess and chronically, this creates an inflammatory state that directly interferes with protein signaling to the muscles. Dr. Paulo Fernandes, an endocrinologist specializing in aging metabolism, explains, the insulin spike after a meal rich in refined carbohydrates can reduce muscle protein synthesis by up to 20%, even when enough protein is available. Think about it. That white bread with butter at breakfast not only doesn't provide enough protein, it actively sabotages the absorption of the little protein you have consumed. 2. Undiagnosed gastrointestinal inflammation. More than 30% of elderly people suffer from some degree of intestinal inflammation that has never been diagnosed. Conditions such as mild diverticulitis, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, or gluten sensitivity can significantly compromise protein absorption. Mrs. Teresina, 83 years old, spent decades suffering from progressive muscle weakness until she discovered that she had chronic intestinal inflammation caused by gluten sensitivity. 3 months after eliminating gluten and adjusting her protein intake, she regained enough strength to climb stairs without help. 3. Poorly guided restrictive diets. Many elderly people concerned about cholesterol or weight adopt extremely restrictive diets in fats and animal proteins without proper guidance. A study by the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul found that elderly people following self-directed, low-fat diets consumed, on average, only 0.5 g of protein per kilogram of weight, far below what is needed to maintain muscle mass. 4. Inadequate consumption of essential micronutrients. Muscle protein synthesis depends not only on protein itself, but also on vitamins and minerals that act as cofactors in this process. Deficiencies of vitamin D, magnesium, zinc, and vitamin B6, extremely common in elderly people, can significantly compromise the body's use of proteins. Studies show that more than 70% of Brazilians over 65 have insufficient levels of vitamin D, a mineral crucial for muscle protein synthesis. 5. Reduced stomach acidity. With aging, the production of hydrochloric acid in the stomach naturally decreases. This acid is essential to break down proteins into components that can be absorbed. Even more critical, medications commonly used by elderly people, such as proton pump inhibitors, omeprazole, pantoprazole, for reflux, further reduce this acidity, drastically compromising protein digestion. Gastroenterologist Dr. Roberto Campos states, "An elderly person taking omeprazole daily may have their protein absorption capacity reduced by up to 40%, even when consuming high-quality protein sources." 6. The myth of the complete vegetable protein. Many elderly people are led to believe that they can completely replace animal proteins with vegetables. Although important in the diet, vegetable proteins generally have an incomplete amino acid profile and lower bioavailability. For an elderly person with anabolic resistance, relying solely on vegetable proteins can worsen muscle loss. The good news is that by identifying and correcting these traps, you can drastically improve how your body uses protein. But there's another factor that may be in your medicine cabinet right now. Few elderly people make the connection between the medications they take daily and the muscle loss they experience. However, many common medications may be silently draining protein from your body or interfering with your ability to use it effectively. Let's reveal the main villains. 1. Corticosteroids, prednisone, dexamethasone. Used to treat inflammatory conditions such as rheumatoid arthritis, asthma, and autoimmune diseases, corticosteroids can have a devastating effect on muscles when used long-term. Corticosteroids increase muscle protein catabolism by up to 30%, explains Dr. Marina Santos, a rheumatologist. It's as if they give the body permission to start eating its own muscles, even when protein is available in the diet. Mr. Antonio, 68 years old, lost almost 40% of his muscle mass after 2 years of treatment with prednisone for polymyalgia rheumatica. His doctor never warned him about the need to increase protein intake to compensate for this effect. 2. Proton pump inhibitors, omeprazole, pantoprazole. As mentioned earlier, these medications for acid reflux and ulcers drastically reduce the stomach acidity needed to properly digest proteins. Studies show that elderly people using these medications for more than a year have a 44% higher risk of fragility fractures, an indirect sign of accelerated muscle and bone loss. 3. Diuretics, hydrochlorothiazide, furosemide. Used to treat hypertension and heart failure, diuretics can cause excessive excretion of nitrogen in the urine, essentially eliminating the building blocks of proteins before your body can use them. Loop diuretics like furosemide can increase the loss of amino acids in the urine by up to 20%, says Dr. Carlos Mendez, a nephrologist. For elderly people already dealing with anabolic resistance, this can be enough to completely prevent muscle recovery. 4. Statins, simvastatin, atorvastatin. Although crucial for many elderly people with high cholesterol, statins can cause myopathy. a condition that directly affects muscle fibers and interferes with their ability to use proteins efficiently. A study published in JAMA Internal Medicine found that elderly people using statins had an average 14% reduction in muscle protein synthesis compared to non-users, even when consuming identical amounts of protein. 5. Metformin. This common medication for diabetes can reduce the absorption of vitamin B12, a nutrient essential for muscle and nerve health. B12 deficiency can lead to muscle weakness and neuropathy, exacerbating mobility problems. 6. Antacids containing aluminum and calcium. These over-the-counter medications form insoluble complexes with proteins in the digestive tract, preventing their proper absorption. Regular use can significantly reduce the utilization of dietary proteins. It is important to emphasize, never stop or change the dosage of any medication without medical advice. The goal here is not to demonize these medications. Many of them are absolutely essential. The main message is that if you use any of these medications, you need to pay special attention to your protein intake and discuss compensatory strategies with your doctor. Dr. Roberto Almeida, a geriatrician with extensive experience, explains, "It's not about stopping treatment, but about adjusting your diet to minimize the impacts." Unfortunately, few doctors address this with their elderly patients. Now that you know the hidden difficulties and challenges in protein intake, let's get to the crucial point. How much of this vital nutrient do you need to consume daily to protect your muscles? The traditional protein recommendations you've probably heard throughout your life are completely outdated for people over 60. This is a truth confirmed by modern science, but it hasn't yet reached most medical offices. For decades, the standard recommendation was 0.8 g of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, the famous RDA, recommended dietary allowance. However, this value was established for young, healthy adults, not for the elderly who face lower absorption and greater protein degradation. So, how much is actually needed? Let's look at the latest scientific data. To maintain muscle mass, prevention, 1.0 to 1.2 g of protein per kilogram of body weight daily. To recover lost muscle mass, treatment, 1.2 to 1.6 g of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. For elderly individuals who regularly perform resistance exercises, 1.6 to 2.0 g of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. To illustrate, a 65-kilo woman who only wants to preserve her muscle mass would need to ingest between 65 g and 78 grams of protein daily, much more than the 52 g recommended by the old standards. If this same woman shows signs of muscle loss and wants to recover it, her need increases to 78 grams to 104 g per day. And if she does weight training 3 times a week, the need can reach 130 grams daily. These numbers may seem high, but they are based on solid scientific evidence. A groundbreaking study published in the Journals of Gerontology showed that elderly individuals who consumed 1.5 g per day of protein maintained significantly more muscle mass over 12 weeks than those who consumed the recommended amount of 0.8 g kg day. Even more impressive, the ProtAge Study Group, an international group of researchers specializing in nutrition and aging, concluded after analyzing hundreds of studies that most older adults assessed in geriatric care settings consume far less than the recommended amounts of protein to maintain muscle function. But here's the challenge most people face: how to consume so much protein when appetite decreases with age. Donna Irene, 72, confided her frustration. "Doctor, I can't eat a whole steak like before. My stomach seems smaller. I feel full very quickly." She expressed what many elderly people feel: the anorexia of aging, a natural reduction in appetite that makes consuming sufficient protein a real challenge. Therefore, the distribution of proteins throughout the day and the choice of correct sources are as important as the total amount. Topics that we will address in the next sections. An important warning: people with advanced chronic kidney disease may need protein restriction and should follow specific guidelines from their nephrologists. However, it is crucial to understand that most elderly people do not fall into this category and suffer much more from protein deficiency than from its excess. Dr. Paulo Saldanha, a nephrologist at Hospital das Clínicas, clarifies, "There is an excessive fear that protein damages the kidneys. For elderly people with normal or slightly reduced kidney function, which is the case for most, a higher protein intake does not represent a risk and brings significant benefits to muscle health." Andres, now that you know how much protein you need to consume, let's move on to the next crucial point: when to consume this nutrient to maximize its benefits. Just as important as the total amount of protein is how you distribute it throughout the day. This is one of the most revolutionary discoveries of recent nutritional research. The timing of protein intake can make a significant difference in how your body uses this essential nutrient. Traditionally, most Brazilians concentrate their protein consumption at lunch and, to a lesser extent, at dinner. The typical breakfast is low in protein, consisting mainly of carbohydrates. This uneven distribution is particularly problematic for the elderly. Here's the scientific concept you need to understand. There is a leucine threshold that needs to be reached at each meal to effectively activate muscle protein synthesis. For young adults, this threshold is approximately 1.7 gene of leucine, found in about 15 to 20 grains of high-quality protein. For the elderly, due to lower absorption, this threshold increases to 2.5 to 3 grains of leucine, found in approximately 25 to 30 grains of high-quality protein. The problem? If you consume less than this threshold in a meal, the stimulus for muscle building is minimal or non-existent, no matter how much protein you consume for the rest of the day. Based on this understanding, researchers now recommend a protein distribution very different from the traditional one. Ideal protein distribution throughout the day for the elderly. Breakfast, 25 to 30 grams of protein. Muscle protein synthesis is most efficient in the morning, after overnight fasting. However, this is precisely the meal in which most elderly people consume the least protein. Lunch, 25-30 grams of protein. Maintain the anabolic stimulus with another significant dose of protein. Dinner, 25-30 grams of protein. Provide sufficient amino acids for muscle recovery during sleep. Before bed snack, optional, 15 to 20 grams of slow-digesting protein. Recent studies show that a small amount of slow-digesting protein, such as casein, found in cheese and yogurt, before bed, can reduce nocturnal muscle catabolism. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition compared elderly individuals consuming the same total amount of protein, 90 grams a day, but with different distributions. Group 1, 15 grams at breakfast, 45 grams at lunch, 30 grams at dinner. Group 2, 30 grams at breakfast, 30 grams at lunch, 30 grams at dinner. After 12 weeks, Group 2 showed 25% greater muscle mass gains, even consuming exactly the same total amount of protein. This clearly demonstrates the power of proper distribution. Another crucial aspect of the timing of protein intake is related to physical activity. The anabolic window, the period after exercise when muscles are most receptive to protein, is shorter in the elderly than in young people. Dr. Marcelo Weismann, a sports physician specializing in aging, recommends elderly individuals should consume protein preferably in the first 30 minutes after exercise, while young people have a window of up to 2 hours. This difference is crucial and rarely explained to older patients. Mr. João, 76, reported that he started drinking a protein shake immediately after his weight training sessions, instead of waiting to get home for lunch. The difference was remarkable, he reported. In just 2 months, I managed to increase 2 kilos of muscle mass after years of progressively losing strength. As you can see, modern science is revealing that it is not enough to just consume enough protein. It is necessary to consume it at the right times and in adequate amounts per meal to truly protect and rebuild your muscles. Now that you understand the importance of the quantity and timing of intake, let's explore the best sources of this essential nutrient so you can implement these changes in your daily routine. Now that you understand the crucial importance of protein, the amount needed, and when to consume it, let's move on to the practical aspect. What are the best protein sources specifically for the elderly? Not all proteins are created equal. To overcome lower absorption, the elderly need to focus on sources that offer high biological value, proteins that contain all essential amino acids in adequate proportions. Rich in leucine, the fundamental amino acid that activates protein synthesis. Good digestibility, easy absorption, especially important for aging digestive systems. Practicality, easy preparation, and regular consumption. Based on these criteria, here are the ideal protein sources for the elderly. Eggs. Eggs are practically perfect for the elderly. Each large egg contains about 6-7 g of complete protein with an excellent amino acid profile. The yolk, previously considered harmful, is now recognized as a source of essential nutrients that facilitate protein absorption, such as vitamin D, choline, and essential fatty acids. Eggs are one of the most complete foods for the elderly, says nutritionist Dr. Marcia Oliveira. In addition to their high-quality protein, they contain nutrients that protect the brain against degeneration and strengthen immunity. The recommended amount 2 to 3 whole eggs per day are safe and beneficial for most elderly people, even those with moderately elevated cholesterol, according to the most recent guidelines from the Brazilian Society of Cardiology. Fish, such as salmon, sardine, trout, and cod, offer not only high-quality protein, but also omega-3 fatty acids, which have proven anti-inflammatory properties, crucial for combating chronic inflammation that contributes to muscle loss. A study from the University of Washington showed that elderly individuals who consumed fish 3 times a week had 40% less muscle degradation than those who rarely consumed it, even when total caloric intake was identical. Recommended amount, 2 to 3 servings of fish per week, giving preference to fatty species rich in omega-3. Lean meats. Lean beef, chicken, and turkey are excellent sources of complete protein and have a high concentration of leucine. Red meat in particular offers heme iron, which is easily absorbed, important for preventing anemia, a common condition in the elderly that aggravates muscle weakness. Recommended amount, 100 to 150 grams of lean meat per main meal, limiting red meats to 3 to 4 times a week. Dairy products, milk, yogurt, and cheese provide casein and whey protein, both of high biological value. Casein is digested slowly, providing amino acids for an extended period, while whey protein is absorbed quickly. This combination is especially beneficial. Greek yogurt deserves special mention. A 200-gram serving contains approximately 20 grams of protein, in addition to probiotics that improve digestion and nutrient absorption. Greek yogurt is one of the best foods for the elderly, explains Dr. Roberto Navarro, a gastroenterologist. It combines high-quality protein with beneficial bacteria that improve intestinal health, crucial for the elderly. Recommended amount, 2-3 servings of dairy products per day, giving preference to low-sugar versions. Vegetable protein combinations. For elderly vegetarians or those who want to reduce their consumption of animal protein, intelligent combinations are essential. Rice plus beans, amino acid complementation. Tofu plus sesame increases bioavailability. Quinoa plus lentils, complete amino acid profile. It is important to note that elderly vegetarians need to consume approximately 20% more vegetable protein to compensate for lower digestibility and a less ideal amino acid profile. Practical protein foods for elderly people with little appetite. Whey protein, not just for young people. 1 to 2 scoops, 25-30 g, mixed in milk or yogurt, provide very high-quality protein. Greek yogurt with fruits and seeds. A perfect combination of protein, probiotics, and nutrients. Scrambled eggs with cheese, easy to prepare and digest, rich in protein. Canned sardines, practical, affordable, and extremely nutritious. Protein shake, milk, yogurt, plus whey protein, plus banana, plus avocado. Easy to consume even with reduced appetite. Donna Clara, 81, reports her experience. I started making oatmeal with milk, beaten egg, and a scoop of whey protein for breakfast. In just 2 months, my physical therapist noticed a difference in the firmness of my legs. I can get up from the chair much more easily now. Although it is ideal to obtain proteins from natural foods, the reality is that many elderly people have difficulty consuming sufficient protein solely through their diet. In these cases, supplementation can be a valuable tool, provided it is done correctly. When to consider protein supplementation: significant loss of appetite, difficulty chewing or swallowing, digestive problems that limit absorption, increased needs, recovery from illness, surgery, inability to prepare adequate meals. Let's analyze the main protein supplements available and their suitability for the elderly. 1. Whey protein. Whey protein. This is generally the best option for the elderly due to its exceptional digestibility and high leucine content. Whey protein is rapidly absorbed and stimulates muscle protein synthesis more effectively than other sources. A study published in the Journal of the American Medical Directors Association showed that elderly individuals who supplemented with whey protein twice a day showed 40% greater strength gains than those who used other proteins, even with identical exercises. What to look for? Whey protein isolate, purer, less lactose. Minimum additives and sugars. Quality certification, between 20 to 25 g of protein per serving. What to avoid? Formulas with excess sugars. Products with long lists of artificial ingredients, very cheap versions that may contain contaminants. 2. Casein. Casein is digested slowly, providing amino acids for several hours. It is particularly useful before bed to reduce nocturnal muscle catabolism. What to look for? Micella casein, the most natural form. Versions without artificial sweeteners. 3. Hydrolyzed collagen. Although collagen is not a complete protein, lacks tryptophan, recent studies show specific benefits for joints and connective tissue in the elderly. Dr. Luciana Moreira, a rheumatologist, explains, hydrolyzed collagen does not replace complete proteins for muscle building, but it can be a valuable supplement, especially for elderly individuals with joint problems. 4. Vegetable proteins, pea, rice, soy. For elderly vegetarians or those with lactose intolerance, vegetable proteins are viable alternatives, although generally inferior in terms of amino acid profile and digestibility. What to look for? Combinations of different vegetable sources improves the amino acid profile. Versions with added digestive enzymes, fortified with essential amino acids. Quantity and timing of supplementation. For the elderly, ideally, 20 to 25 g of high-quality protein per dose. Supplementation at strategic times. Breakfast, after exercise, before bed. Start with smaller doses and gradually increase to avoid digestive discomfort. Important warning: protein supplements are not regulated with the same rigor as medications. A worrying study from the University of São Paulo analyzed 20 popular whey protein brands and found contaminants in 30% of them, as well as protein levels lower than declared in 40%. Dr. Fernando Azevedo, a nutritionist, advises prefer established brands with quality certifications and that provide analysis reports. The cheapest can be very expensive for your health. In addition to consuming enough protein, there are dietary strategies that can optimize its use by the body. These potentiating combinations are particularly important for the elderly who face lower absorption. 1. Protein plus. Vitamin D. Vitamin D is a potent regulator of muscle protein synthesis. Studies show that elderly individuals with adequate vitamin D levels above 30 ng/ml use proteins 20% more efficiently than those with deficiency. Ideal combinations: salmon, rich in protein, plus morning sun exposure, natural vitamin D. Eggs, the yolk contains vitamin D, plus cheese, additional protein. Canned sardines naturally contain both. 2. Protein plus omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3s reduce systemic inflammation that interferes with protein synthesis. A study from the University of Washington showed that supplementation with omega-3 increased the anabolic response to protein by 30% in the elderly. Ideal combinations: seared tuna plus extra virgin olive oil, Greek yogurt with chia seeds, omelette with sardines. 3. Protein plus antioxidants. Oxidative stress impairs protein synthesis. Antioxidants combat this effect, creating a more favorable metabolic environment. Ideal combinations: grilled chicken with broccoli and garlic, rich in sulfur compounds, lean meat with colorful vegetables, various antioxidants, whey protein blended with red fruits, anthocyanins. 4. Protein plus complex carbohydrates in the appropriate proportion. A small amount of complex carbohydrates moderately stimulates insulin, which can facilitate the transport of amino acids to the muscles without causing inflammation. Ideal combinations: omelette with sweet potato, baked fish with quinoa, chicken with brown rice, ratio 2 parts protein to 1 part carbohydrate. Dr. Henrique Mello, a sports physician specializing in longevity, explains, for the elderly, the ideal proportion in main dishes should be approximately 40% protein, 30% healthy fats, and 30% complex carbohydrates. This is the muscle longevity formula that I recommend to my patients over 65. 5. Protein plus natural digestive enzymes. With aging, the production of digestive enzymes decreases. Foods that naturally contain or stimulate enzymes can significantly improve protein digestion and absorption. Ideal combinations: meat with pineapple, bromelain; fish with fresh ginger, zingiberine; eggs with papaya, papain. Donna Margarita, 77, shared her experience. I started adding some fresh pineapple to meals with meat and drinking ginger tea afterwards. My digestion improved a lot, and that feeling of heaviness in my stomach disappeared completely. These simple strategies can make a significant difference in how your body uses the proteins you consume, helping to overcome the natural lower absorption of aging. We have reached the end of this journey of discovery about the essential nutrient that can save your muscles from silent disappearance. Let's summarize what we have learned. Protein is not just another nutrient. It is the fundamental building material of your muscles, especially after age 60. The progressive loss of muscle mass is not an inevitable fate of aging. It is a condition that can be prevented, slowed, and even reversed with the correct strategies. We learned that protein needs increase significantly with age, not by chance or fad, but due to real physiological changes in our body. Lower absorption is a challenge, but not an insurmountable obstacle. We discovered that it is not enough to simply increase the total amount of proteins. The distribution throughout the day, the quality of the sources, and the food combinations make all the difference. Every meal should include sufficient protein to stimulate muscle production. We've uncovered dietary habits and medications that may be depleting this essential nutrient. And crucially, we've learned practical and accessible methods to overcome these obstacles. I want to introduce you to the story of Mr. Alberto, an octogenarian patient who revolutionized his life by following the principles discussed. When I first met him, Alberto could barely walk 100 meters without needing to rest. His legs were so weakened that he had suffered 3 falls in the previous year. His family was considering hiring a caregiver or exploring a long-term care facility. "Doctor, I'm withering away. I feel my body disintegrating," he told me during our first consultation, his eyes welling up. We implemented the strategies discussed. We increased his protein intake to 1.4 g per kilogram of body weight, distributed the protein across 3 main meals, identified and eliminated harmful habits, and combined this with light resistance exercises 3 times a week. 6 months later, Alberto walked into my office without a cane, something he hadn't done in over 2 years. His tests revealed a 3.8 kilo gain in muscle mass. "Not only do I move better," he said, smiling, "I'm being reborn." Alberto's journey is not unique, it's replicable. I've witnessed similar transformations in hundreds of patients who simply applied the correct knowledge about protein and muscle health. And here's the most inspiring truth: it's never too late. Studies prove that even people in their 9th decade of life can gain strength and muscle mass with proper nutrition and appropriate exercise. The human body is incredibly resilient and responsive, regardless of age. It just needs the right resources, and protein is the essential element for muscle health in old age. So what will you do with the knowledge gained today? Will you continue as before, allowing your muscles to silently atrophy? Or will you take control of your health, implement the changes discussed, and write a new chapter in your life? A chapter of strength, autonomy, and vitality? The decision is yours, and I hope you choose to live fully. If this video was helpful to you or someone you love, click like and share. Sarcopenia is a silent condition affecting millions of seniors who are unaware of the transformative power of proper nutrition. Comment on how you intend to increase your protein intake starting today. Your idea may inspire other viewers. Subscribe to the channel for more content that can transform your health and quality of life in your senior years. Turn on the bell to be notified about new videos. Type 1 in the comments if this video provided new information. Type 0 if you were already familiar with the content. Your response helps me create increasingly relevant content. Remember, your muscles are your freedom. Protect them with the knowledge gained today. Until the next video, take good care and strengthen yourselves.